communication's been really good between those two, and really that chemistry. When we watch them practice and some of the things that occur with what our defense does, they do a good job of talking about it before practice, during practice, after a play. I just think that relationship is really going well, and those guys are working well together.
And was that the first time that Ryan's gone to the ground since 2016?
I can't say for sure, but I think there's been a couple other times where, whether it was not this spring, but I think last spring in training camp a couple times before he got hurt, he kind of got hit a little bit and knocked into the ground.
Did you hold your breath at all when that happened?
I wasn't sure what happened. I just saw a couple bodies there, and it turned out he got some cleats to the shin.
Was Cam apologetic, or was it just a?
I don't know. I didn't ask him.
Adam, a couple of housekeeping things. I think Josh Sitton did not do all the individuals team stuff Monday, and then Jawan didn't do all the team stuff today. Veterans rest days for them?
Josh was really, we were trying to not practice Josh. We're trying to be careful about how many times we go in pads with him. He's played, quite a bit of football over his career. We're just trying to be smart when we get the pads on with him and just kind of make sure that we're not going 2, 3, 4 days in a row with him in pads. And really he wanted to do individual, so that's why he was even dressed. And then Jawan, we're being a little precautionary. He kind of had a muscle strain, so we're trying to get more information on that right now. But I don't think anything was alarming. We were just being a little cautious.
Adam, how is Lippett looking to you coming off the injury in terms of mobility and not keeping the injury in the back of his mind?
I think he's had some days where he's looking more like he was in 2016. I think he's had some days where, he has a tough matchup a lot of the times because it seems like he's on Jakeem quite a bit, and that'll test you right out the gate, as far as being able to transition and trying to, stay with a guy with really good speed. So, I think he's just has to focus on what he's doing right now. He's got to put that injury behind him, and I think eventually, that'll move away from him. I think it's going to happen more when we start playing games and, we can get tackling and it gets a little more, physical, more real for him. I think once he gets into a preseason game, all that'll just go behind him and he'll be able to go play.
Adam, is the A.J. Derby absence looking like more of a short-term or long-term thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's long-term, whatever you consider long-term. I know right now it's day-to-day. It's the best answer I can give you right now.
How's Charles Harris looking?
I mean, he's doing what they're asking him to do. So for me, it's hard sometimes because we're asking these guys to stay away from the quarterback, but at the same time, work their craft. And, those guys are really – there's those 8 guys that are rotating in there with that first group, but they're applying a lot of pressure. And, he's one of the guys doing that. And he seems like he's wired in. He's doing every little detail that Chris is looking for him to do. And, once we hit real games, then really that's going to be easier for us to say, okay, here's where we're at with his development and where do we need to go next.
What would you like to see Carew do throughout the preseason?
Really, for him, it's just playing games. Sometimes in practice you get so many reps, and we're trying to be balanced as far as what we're calling in practice, so we can work on certain things. So. When you play receiver in practice, the limited amount of reps you get, you probably catch more balls in routes versus air or individual than a lot of guys do in practice. You never really see anybody with like 10 catches in a practice. It's it's spread out pretty good where guys are getting 3 or 4 balls, and it can get frustrating. But guys, we're looking at, all right, how are we running routes? How are we coming out of breaks? How are our releases? How is our blocking? And really, when we get to those preseason games, that's where guys need to separate themselves at that position.
Adam, whether it was correct or incorrect, we blamed Kiko for a lot of tight end coverage stuff last year. Social media did. Do you think he pays attention to any of that stuff? Do you think he hears it?
No, I don't. So.
How would you describe him in that sense? He seems to kind of
I think he's focused on really what we're doing in this building. I don't think he worries about anything that's going outside of here. You know, he's a very good professional, and he focuses on what he's asked to do, and he tries to get better every day, and whatever he has that day, he gives it to you. You know, and it's when he makes plays like he did today, you know, that's good to see, because he's been a guy that's just been he's been steady since he's been here. You know, he's played through a couple injuries that I'm sure it wasn't the most comfortable situations a few times, where he just doesn't say a word and just goes out and tries to make plays and help us win.
Adam, William Hayes is a guy that nobody seems to be talking a whole lot about. Is he one of those veterans that you just know come the regular season, you can count on him?
Well, I mean, we notice him in practice. I know our players notice him. He does a great job, and every day's a game to him. You know, he doesn't take any plays off. He takes everything he does as serious as anybody I've ever been around. And he's one of those guys. When we traded for him, and you know, when he got injured last year, that was a big swing for us, because he was really our attitude guy on defense. He set the tempo a lot of times, and you know, he played through a lot of injury. It seemed like, you know, I think he was a little more hurt than what he let us on, you know, to believe. And you know, that guy is tough. He's physical, and he cares. He wants to win. He wants to do right.
What do you want to see from the team practice-wise this week heading into this room?
I think it's just the competition. Just want to stay competitive. You know, today I thought it was good. It kind of started leaning one way. I thought it was great to see Cam call the defense up and put an emphasis on, hey, this is not how we're going to play. And you saw a change in tempo there. And you know, when we have turnovers on offense, you know, it's easy for me to sit there and go, we got to hold on the ball, but you know, the defense is causing those. I mean, there's some really good clean hitting going on, to where a guy's popping some of these running backs or wide receivers, and you know, they're applying pressure to the quarterback. I mean, they turned it up, and that was good to see. And the offense, we got to do the same thing when it starts getting to be one of those type of practices where the intensity is going up. Both sides have to match each other, you know, and when one side gets higher than the other one, that's when you see that side of the ball probably dominate the rest of practice.
Is the offense overall, for the 6 days I think it's been, has it been what you wanted it to be, or do you feel like there's a lot of work to do there?
I mean, there's always going to be a lot of work, no matter what phase you're talking about. You're always going to be pushing to get better. And I like a lot of the things that we're doing. We're making such a emphasis on the pre-snap penalties and turnovers, and we just have to stay clean on those type of things. There can't be any lackadaisical moments for either side of the ball. Those, like us being in the back half, you know, really the worst team in the league the last 2 years. I mean, that's embarrassing. Like that has to be not part of our storyline anymore. And I think that's really the biggest thing we're always looking for. Let's have a clean practice to where we don't have those kind of issues.
And how have you done with that?
There's been good days, and then there's been a couple days where it's beyond frustrating, and you know, guys feel it, whether it's from me or Dal or from Matt, and you know, you want to put that kind of pressure on those guys, and you want them to feel that, because when we get in a real game, that's what it is. And if you're feeling it and you start making more mistakes and it's too big for you, then we got to get somebody else in there.
What kind of improvement have you seen from Vincent Taylor from last training camp?
A lot of these guys that are in their second year, they take that step up. They know what they're doing already. And to me, it looks like he's able to play faster. He's able to attack more. And seeing him pursue the ball, I mean, he is really taken to how Chris coaches, and he's one of those guys that he just loves what he does. And he loves being out there, and you love the effort that he gives day in, day out. And he's making plays. He's getting in the backfield. He's disrupting the run game. You know, he's just trying to find a way to get a little bit better every day. And that's all you're really asking for your guys. Are you a guy that's getting better every day? Or are you trying to stay the same? Or are you in it? You know, we want the guys that are always trying to work to improve a little bit each day, because by the end of the season, it pays off for you.
And Adam, what do you need to see out of Raekwon in the scrimmage and the rest of the preseason ready to be the play caller and lead?
See, I think we're in a good place for us with what he does. We're trying to just make sure we keep it tight to where his mind doesn't go all. Being a smart player, he's not thinking about too much. We don't want to slow him down. We want him to play fast. I think he's doing a good job of making sure that group is good with the calls. There's communication going on. It's just the more looks he sees right now, the better, and it'll get easier for him in that capacity to where it's just instincts instead of, all right, if they do this, I got to think of this adjustment. So, there's some work to do still, but overall, we like where he's at. We're just going to keep working to improve him.
Couple more guys.
Adam, what have you liked about Stephon Anthony putting in the second year and just, what he brings to your linebacking core? And
It's very similar to, some of the younger guys that were here last year, and it's their second year, which where, he's more comfortable. He understands the defense. He's able to play faster. Really, I see his value is when we actually can go into a game and it's live tackling. I think that's where he has that experience of making a lot of tackles throughout his rookie season. He had a phenomenal season, made a ton of tackles. He does it well. When we played him a little bit this past season, he was involved in a lot of plays. He's around the ball, and we just want to keep growing him in that capacity. The more spots he knows, the better. And I think it's just he can give us a lot of flexibility because there is a lot of he can do. He's a good-sized guy that can run really well. And when you have a guy like that, we just have to keep getting him better.
Adam, how much can you learn in terms of Jason Sanders during training camp? Is that just more of an in-game situation?
Man, I can't believe you're asking me about kickers. You can try to apply pressure in practice. Rizzy does some, we try to make it feel like a game. That's why we do field goals when we do them, and just kind of the transition of what's going on with the offense and defense. And then we'll do situations to where we do a 2-minute drill, and it's on him really to win the game, whether it be a field goal, extra point, however we set it up. But really, it's going to be preseason games. It's how's his reaction there, how's his consistency. That's really how we're going to evaluate it. And plus, my trust in Rizzy and Moof is off the charts. So I'm always going to lean on those guys.
Last question.
Adam, how would you describe Leonte Carrer's situation right now? He seems like he's on the very outside.
He has to just keep battling. He can't look at what anybody's saying, depth chart, however you want to look at it, how many reps. Just keep playing football. He knows that preseason games is where his best opportunities are going to come.
Why do you say that? As opposed to practice, because games are...
Some of the times practice is scripted. There's just not a ton of plays, You're working on the run and pass game, and then when you get in the preseason game, his snaps go up. They almost, it feels like it triples, especially at the beginning of the preseason. Like, guys get a lot of opportunities between preseasons 1, 2, and 4. That's where you can get great evaluations on the wide receivers.